Everyone on this panel is very capable of putting on keynotes for hours, so we want to make sure that we're getting as much information out of them as we can today. So, Rika, I want to start with you. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
We're talking about why retail is driving the metaverse forward. And I'm wondering if you give us a quick background about you and your experience with companies like NVIDIA and Amex and your relationship with metaverse.
Sure. So hello, everyone, and thank you so much to Canada House Frontier Collection, all the amazing VCs and companies and entrepreneurs here today. I am currently at NTT. I'm part of the New Ventures Innovation Group, where we're looking at things like private 5G, IoT, edge computing, AI, blockchain. I don't know how many more buzzwords I can drop into a single sentence on new technologies, but a lot of that is playing off of the world that I've been inhabiting before that. So as James mentioned, NVIDIA, and I've worked in next generation computing. And my fascination with this is that it's all an evolution. It's all about how we are interfacing with technology and the way that that's continuing to hopefully drive a better future together, as the remark on the Vancouver video about green and growth. Sometimes those two don't necessarily grow together, because growth and the incessant pursuit of growth is what kind of got us into this hot mess to begin with. And I think some of the controversy that is out there is really around economic growth and development, and is that sustainable, and therefore is a virtual world or a metaverse. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. I know, please, if anything I say makes you fall out of your chair, please, just put a cushion down or something. But really, it's about thinking about the next era that we're going into and the way that technology is going to help us have a more sustainable outcome. But also, as we're talking about retail and brands, what does it even mean what does retail even mean? What do brands mean? What does it mean for us to be a consumer society? And is that ultimately where we're going to be able to go if everything becomes, not everything will become virtualized, but as more and more experiences and the relationship that we have with experiences and brands starts to evolve and develop. So that's a space that I'm eminently interested in, and also thinking about how we can push the envelope. And being a global citizen, I'm half German, half Japanese, grew up in Tokyo. I also think very, very carefully about the role that communities play, which was part of the panel that we had before. So really excited to have a hot debate, no pun intended, because when the phrase boiling the ocean, that's actually not a good phrase to use anymore, especially sustainability. But anyway, thanks so much, James. Looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you, Rika. We also have Cynthia Maller here, who is head of 3D at Walmart. She was also the creative director at PayPal and Yahoo. Cynthia, can you tell us about your role at Walmart today and a little bit about how you got there?
Sure. I don't think most people know what Yahoo is. That's been sort of sobering to me. So my role at Yahoo was to build the brand when it was cool. I just want to make that clear. I guess Wikipedia defines Yahoo at this point as something. So anyway, so at Walmart, I came there 5 years ago to actually do something else, to be a traditional creative director for their digitally native brands. And about the first week, I was standing amidst a giant photo studio watching the chaos. And I am a technologist from the get-go. My oldest brother was a very big luminary in Silicon Valley, so I'm just comfortable with technology. So I thought, this can't work. We're the biggest retailer, and we're hammering nails into wood, and the set builder was snowed in and didn't show up. So I went back to Silicon Valley, and Anthony Suhu, who I really owe so much to, he was head of home operations, and I said, I am founder of Dot & Bow, who already was making digital twins, and I said, I don't know why we're not using 3D for retail. And he said, I don't know either, but go ahead and do it. And I was like, okay. So my day job just immediately switched, and I am very passionate about all facets, including sustainability. So on a day-to-day basis, what I do is, first and foremost, I create the building blocks, which are those digital twins. And then from those building blocks, I demonstrate some of the use cases, like beautiful imagery, and then some real-time functionality that we can give to customers. And then enterprise AR is becoming a huge priority. Now, I will say I was very deeply involved in the pilot. Emerging tech is going to take that and run with it, and I'm happy to give that ball away and fade into the background. So day-to-day, that's what I do, but I will say I have a huge focus on empowering merchants. I do think about the end customer, but that's really their job. If I can't help them do their job better, then I'm not doing my job. You know, they talk about who's your customer or surprise and delight. Well, with the merchants, I want to delight them. I do not want to surprise them. So my main focus with even things like immersive technology is showing the merchant organization and the marketing organization what to do with this technology. Because then they do their jobs really well and delight the customer and have stuff in stock and release new things. So that's, you know.
So we can see how metaverse is technology that's being used at the biggest retailers today in a variety of ways, including digital twins. Keith Soljacich, you are the head of innovation at Publicis, and you have a storied career of being a technologist. You also have been working with Walmart on Walmart Land. Can you tell us about your role at Publicis around metaverse? And if you can give us some background about how we're using the term metaverse and then that project that we got into with Walmart quickly.
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to. As mentioned, Keith Soljacich. I'm the head of innovation at Publicis Media, content and innovation. We're a center of excellence for all the technologies Rika was listing out, right? Almost too many to count now. It's incredible, and our digital experience is changing. We recognize that. And really, instead of trying to classify it into a bucket or saying this is this type of technology, from a media company, what we're focused on is next generation experiences for consumers. That might require a single technology to power it. It might require a combination of technologies that create a really magical experience for the consumer. The technology we use matters little. The consumer experience and the brand experience is the hero here for us. And so our team was set up a little over a year ago, and I've been at Publicis for 16 years, and our leadership isn't here, but I'm sure they're listening in some way to say that they've always invested in technology and technology innovation, and we've acquired companies that power this, and we've incubated companies that power this, because for us and for the brands we work for, we've got to stay ahead of the trend. We've got to stay ahead of where the eyeballs, the fingers, the ears are listening to our brands. Now, when it comes to next generation experiences, like metaverse, like Web3, like artificial intelligence and generative AI very specifically, this is what brands are very interested in to say, first we need to understand it. And so our team at Publicis, the PMCI team, that's where we come in first and we educate marketers on next generation brand experiences. And last year we spent a whole lot of time educating over 4,000 brand marketers on what is the metaverse, what is blockchain technologies, and how do those power consumer experiences, what is generative AI, and how can we use that not just within our own walls of Publicis to create amazing creative, but also for our brands that are out in market and saying, well, how do we leverage artificial intelligence to power consumer experience? And lastly, we can't do this all on our own at Publicis, and we have incredible partners. And we work with some of the biggest partners in the world, and we have a partnership with OpenAI. So we actually can create commercialized experiences for brands. And we have a partnership with Polygon Technologies, so we can create enterprise-grade Web3 experiences. And certainly, all the incredible partners out here in the metaverse space, going back, this is a lot of my longtime family here, because I come from the VR world and worked on some of the very early Volvo Auto Show experiences in virtual reality, went on to create VR and AR experiences before we called it metaverse for Whirlpool and American Express and Kellogg's, and now we're very much pushing into the Web3 space, working on metaverse and Web3 powered experiences for Samsung. We did all of their 837X experience into Decentraland, and now we can test these out. And I can have real results to bring back to the brands that say, this works, but it works in a very different way than you may have expected. And so we're effectively a year and a half in on the next generation of Web 3.0, of the metaverse generation. And it's incredibly exciting. And the technology is going to make it more magical than ever.
Wonderful. Thank you, Keith. So metaverse has been very, very hype-driven and trendy for the last couple years. But what I'm hearing from you is that this is technology that's driving business forward today. Cynthia, where does metaverse live in Walmart? Is it in innovation? Has it graduated out of innovation? How are we thinking about it within the stack across the business units?
Well, at Walmart, the thing that's interesting, I think, is that you have such a, I would say, complex network that works on behalf of the customer. From logistics to buyers, to product development, to the store associates, to building stores, designing stores, for the web team. So what is important about immersive technology is that we have an XR council at work, and it sounds like something that lives on a planet somewhere, but we all have uniforms. No, we don't. And so those are people who work in immersive technology in all of those facets. And Walmart is really, they've led the way for a long time. I'm not the only one who does 3D. In fact, I'm the last person who's done it. And so my colleagues on, let's say, the associate training side, or the product development side, or the site engineering team, we get together and we discuss, number one, to be efficient if we're going to develop content, but then how can immersive content work best in those areas? And most of all, how can we avoid doing the same thing in two different teams? So at Walmart, the scale is fun, which, the problems are really big. But what's interesting is the more that we communicate, we find, actually our problems are the same. And Dr. Goel had the best quote, which is, as soon as the problem becomes annoying enough, someone will invest in solving it. And so immersive technology at Walmart has many tentacles, but what we're doing is making sure that we talk to one another and say, how can I develop, in my role, how can I develop assets that will help you build that experience? And I think when it comes to Keith and building Walmart Land, that's all Publicis did a great job and Journey. But in the beginning, working with Store 8, my role was really to say, how can we make sure that everything we're doing, first of all, the engineers are aware of what the display layer looks like, because when they're not, bad things happen. So linking all those things together, marketing, emerging technology, and sitting in those meetings and just making sure it's represented. But that hasn't happened at Walmart before, having representatives from the council in all these projects. So the metaverse we're developing it right now. No one's talking about it except for really the Roblox experience. So it's a marketing thing, which is very bad. I do not want it to be a marketing thing. So we got to figure out how to move past that quickly.
So this is one of the challenges with the term, is that everyone has built an opinion very quickly about it, but it actually represents a lot of different ingrained technology work at retailers the size of Walmart.
Yeah.
And it is a technology that is being used to help with sustainability.
Oh, yeah.
Rika, I know that sustainability is front of mind for you at the moment, and you've had the good fortune of seeing XR and immersive technology from its infancy, from before anybody had actually started to play with it conceptually. When we look at the world today, we look at the use of technology across different organizations. How do you see metaverse and sustainability being linked?
Crypto, blockchain, metaverse, data centers, all of these very power-hungry tools and platforms were the bane of sustainability, right? Because they were going to be consuming a lot of power. But now what's happening is people are thinking about the role that virtualized worlds or metaverse, and again, metaverse can be defined different ways. I know, Keith, you have a very specific definition that
the last thing I'd want to do, Rika, is try to define the metaverse in a rim of
like this.
Like this.
But I'm still going to tell you to. So I think for the opportunity that we have is that brands, and this panel, I would actually flip it. It's not how retail is driving the future. It's how the future is forcing brands and retail to respond. And sustainability is, thank goodness, becoming an increasingly big issue because it has to. It's not about what's good for the planet. It's how the heck do we all survive in the next 30 to 40 years. I'm going to get off that soapbox because it's a whole nother topic. But my point is that brands and retail have to be authentic in the way that they engage with customers. And I have this analogy for who we are as human beings. I say that 50 years ago, we used to be like the television set. We kind of had 3 channels of how we express ourselves. Now, we all have an opportunity to be a whole host of different radio stations that we can tune into as an expression of who we are, instead of just ABC, CBS, and some other channel. And in that vein, we don't have the loyalty to brands that perhaps the generation before necessarily had. We can swap brands, we can mix brands, we can wear Muji. Muji, by the way, ironically, is a Japanese brand, which is no brand. But they've made a brand by being called no brand, so wrap your minds around that for a moment. But you can wear a Muji t-shirt with Chloe sunglasses and be hip, right? And that's still an expression of yourself. So the point around the sustainability piece is that brands are waking up to the fact that they have got to be more authentic around the way that they're going to engage with us as consumers, because consumers are demanding it. There will come a day, and no, I'm not about to be for the woman that was on the panel before this of the nude shot, so don't worry about it. I'm just going to try to find my tag here. Anyway, I have a tag in here somewhere. I was going to make this super cool and dramatic, but there's a tag in my shirt, as many of you have. There will come a day where there will be a carbon footprint measurement on your clothing. And that will be something that a lot of the brands are going to be very conscious of. And today, even like Anheuser-Busch had a whole campaign where they had a QR code on their can so that you as a consumer, thanks to blockchain, can go back and authenticate and see what was the life cycle production of that product. And so there's going to be this really interesting interplay between sustainability, brands, and how brands and retail are going to have to respond not just to the demands of customers, but the imperatives that are going to be out there around how they think about their supply chain, how they think about circular economy, and the way that they can really be part of how we thrive, and the experience of feeling good, because we all feel better if we're going to be part of something that's going to make sure that we can survive the next 30, 40 years. And with that, I'm going to ask Keith to define the metaverse. Keith?
Mine is super simple and uncontroversial, but look, to me, the metaverse is the 3D internet, okay? And it's the internet that can exist anywhere and can be anything that you want it to be, or that is rendered for you. So I have a very shallow definition of what the metaverse is. But really, what's exciting to me and what's most exciting about the metaverse is the technology is meeting the moment. And right now, and from a sustainability standpoint, when you look at retail, the power and how powerful the technology is that we have in our hands, that our children have, that they engage with, has made a huge shift in what's possible at the point of sale, at retail, whether that's at home or at the store. And looking back, worked on some of the very first Volvo auto show experiences. And almost 7 years ago now, if you wanted to just see a car in virtual reality, which was brand new to you, the amount of technology you needed to create the experience, render the experience, the camera is looking, I'm talking to people, camera's looking outside in, the headsets that's so bulky, the PCs that you had to blow fans at just to keep cooled down to have a virtual experience, that we are so far beyond that now. So where I can just pull up a phone at a point of sale at retail, something that caught my eye, that attracted me, I can have an instantaneous virtual try-on of that if we're talking apparel, and I can say right in that moment, that is a style that fits me because I can see it on myself. I can visualize this product. I'm no longer going to fill up my bag with a bunch of clothes I think that I may want to bring home and purchase and keep, but then ultimately I'm going to probably return a bunch of them because I'm unsure, I lack confidence in that purchase, and I really don't want to have to come back, right? Now, from a sustainability standpoint, you are going home with possibly a lower ring, right? Maybe I only bought 1 or 2 pieces. I have full confidence that those fit me, they look great, that matches the look I'm going for. And from a sustainability standpoint, I'm not returning a bunch of clothing that is worn or lightly used that now potentially ends up in a landfill. So that evolution of the technology is incredibly exciting to me for retail, and that's a real business problem on the amount and the cost of returns for apparel companies and how much of that ends up in landfills. So the technology is meeting the moment and the power we have. Now that our creativity is unleashed, it doesn't just have to say, can I look at that product from the front, back, left, and right? I can have a true brand experience surrounding that really cool product.
Well, I want to add to that. It's so important now to include so I'm going to just talk about Walmart. Need to make sure that the folks internally understand how they can help. And one of the things that we did with Enterprise AR was the part of the metrics that we held our breath because we said they were going to be good. One of the most important metrics was to mitigate returns. And so, doing that sends a message just in the metrics. It was like, okay, Enterprise AR, this many people engaged with it for this long, it increased basket size. Well, buying it is great, but not returning it is even better, way better. And so just building in the metrics or things that are important that speak to that helps to build new ways of looking at sustainability. Because from my experience, people want to do things in a more sustainable way, but they don't necessarily know how. Now, our CEO, many companies have the 2030 deadline, but it's called Project Gigaton, and it is focused on suppliers, which is great. But what our XR Council realized is, well, we actually don't have those same stringent requirements internally, the way that we do our work. So in my team, I've started to even do things like talk to the photo studio about the craft service that they keep doing. Can you buy just individually wrapped muffins instead of putting bagels out? So I think as we do our work internally, we can take a message from how suppliers are being pushed to do things better, because it wasn't obvious. Like the waste that we do as part of the work we do can be mitigated, but we have to raise the awareness and then give people how do I do that? How do I do that? And maybe it's not fair that I now use sustainability as a compelling force to get more people adopting it internally, meaning more retailers making digital twins of their products. But for 5 years, my focus has just been to get them to adopt it based on financials or consumer engagement. But now I'm ready to put in every single project the goal of mitigating returns as the reason to do this, to create that digital twin.
And that's wonderful. And our concluding statement here at the end of this panel, that the metaverse is actually also a solution for sustainability as we move forward. This is not just a hype trend. It's not just a marketing experiment, but we're using it today across the biggest retailers and the biggest brands to drive things like sustainability
James,
and a better future.
Can I coin a term that we were discussing?
Please.
Yes.
So I was playing around and I was like, oh, this is really corny and bad, but I was like, oh, we can go from retail to we-tail. Oh, see, okay, no, that didn't fly. But anyway, back to you, James.
Thank you, Rika. All right. So if we could all just give a hand to Rika, Keith, and Cynthia.
Thank you.
And the Frontier Collective for bringing such an incredible group together. Thanks, guys.